Let me take you back to 2 years ago when my life started unraveling. We had a 3-year-old daughter at the time. I wasn't spending a lot of time with my 3-year-old daughter because of my busy work schedule. So I cherish every moment that I spend with her. She's at that age when children starts forming meaningful words. My wife was a stay-at-home mom, so she does the majority of the parental duties. I work 6 days a week because I just got a promotion at work to a road that I was underqualified for and very financially rewarding. And we had another baby on the way. Since my daughter started talking, it's been a blast to spend time with her. She was a late bloomer and should have started talking earlier. Now that she speaks, you couldn't get her to shut up. And I loved it. Hearing her speak reminded me why I go to work every day to provide for my family. One Sunday evening, I was doing my favorite thing of the week, chilling with my daughter and watching a movie with her and my 6-year-old pit bull. My favorite moment is when she makes commentary on what she sees on TV. If she sees a cat, she would mention my grandmother's cat's name. If she sees a dog, she will shout out the name of my 6-year-old pit bull. When she sees a person that looks like me, she will point at the TV and call out Day Day, which is her way of saying, Daddy. When she sees a person that looks like my brother, she would say, Uncle, meaning uncle, and etc. This will go until she gets tired or falls asleep. Now most of the PG-13 movies nowadays have some kind of romantic scene, and I don't watch an R-rated movie with my 3-year-old, but it's difficult to find a movie nowadays without a romance scene. We were watching Wonder Woman 1984. Not much of a romance movie. A family-friendly movie, something I could watch with my daughter. Watching a superhero with a woman as the main character I hope would empower her as a woman and would hopefully help improve her self-esteem. Growing up, then came the romance scene between Gadot, the woman playing Wonder Woman, and Chris Pine. That was when things got interesting. During the romantic scene, my daughter goes, "That's Mama," and Udo. She calls out her mother, Mama, and calls me Day Day. Then who is Udo? I thought maybe she misspoke. My family members visits often, and I have never heard her call anyone Udo before. I don't know who Udo is. I thought about what she just said for a minute, then I wondered the romance scene to see if she would say, again. I'm sure enough. She said, Udo again. I turned towards her and looked in her eyes, those beautiful innocent eyes. I asked her softly, who is Udo? And she pointed to the ceiling. It didn't make any sense to me. I thought she was pointing at Dodd or something. I played a different movie that showed a romantic scene to see if I would get the same reaction from her, and sure enough, my daughter said the same thing. Maybe she's trying to tell me something, but I had no clue what it is. Now, who is Udo? What's the biggest mystery to me at the time? I know some people may say that you can't trust children's memory or what they say, and I would normally lean towards that. However, that was about the same time I read about a story on the news about a 3-year-old that remembered his past life and identified his murderer. Children can be quite an oracle, especially at that age. I knew it's a different story for mine. We are one. It's about every incarnation and mine is in the present. But it had a profound effect on me, and I couldn't deny the eerie similarities in age. And the fact that I recently came across that story had me believing that children were articles. It was surreal, and the greatest mystery was finding out who is Udo? I can't possibly ask my wife who Udo was because she might lie about it. Back then, I trusted my wife with my life, and I didn't expect anything but honesty from her. About my wife, she was born in the Middle East and came with her family to America. When she was a teen, she was raised the Muslim. My parents migrated from the same country as hers, but I was born in the US. We were introduced by family members, so we had a strong family link and supports behind our marriage. We are both Muslims, but are not deeply religious. We observe all the Islamic festivities and tradition, and at 10 months come Fridays. My wife sports a hijab, every once in a while. Beats loosely, and I don't tell her to do it. And frankly, I don't care. She does it on her own volition. She's 26 years old, and I'm 32 years old. She studied psychology in college, and she was a high school teacher before we decided that she would be a stay-at-home mom and raise the children when we start a family. I am a financial manager and a young one at that for such a big bank. We recently moved into my current apartment 7 months prior. Because I received a promotion and had to relocate with the $40,000 pay bump. Now that we have gotten the background story out of the way, let's continue. I remember talking my baby to sleep that night and still thinking about who Udo was. I never thought about confronting my wife about it, because quite frankly, it will be stupid accusing her of something so serious with no evidence. Moreover, my wife was the best wife I could have asked for. She was as obedient as they come. She cooks and clean, and we have a healthy excess life. No red flags whatsoever. Why would I accuse her of having an affair with someone just because my daughter saw a movie scene and called out Mama and Udo? Seemed like a stretch, and I don't know who Udo was. It might very well be a figment. It might very well be a figment of my daughter's imagination. An accusation like that when spoken can't be unspoken. Next action item for me is to find out who Udo was. As much as I was tormented by the thoughts of my wife having an affair with Udo, the following day, I forgot all about it and went about my day. Fast forward 2 months later, 9 months since we relocated to our new apartment, we were walking our dog at the community park next to my apartment. It was me, my daughter, wife, and the dog. We came across a man walking his dog. He was coming from the opposite direction. The first thing I noticed was my dog acted like he recognized his dog. Then both dogs acted like they recognized each other. I tucked the leash when I noticed that my dog was running towards the stranger with his dog. I looked at my wife, and she was trying not to notice what was going on by not making eye contact and looking straight ahead. When my daughter saw the man, she called out, "Udo! Udo! Udo!" calling the man in such a manner as she would call any of my relatives that she knows, but the man reacted differently. Like, he didn't know her. He ignored us and kept dragging his dog along, looking away like a stranger. I'm acting like he doesn't know any of us. I made eye contact with the man and gave him a polite smile. And he smiled back and kept on walking. It was such a weird experience that demanded an explanation. I felt that awkward energy around me. The chance encounter with a stranger took less than 5 seconds, but felt longer. I looked at my wife again, and she looked straight ahead. Like, she didn't notice what just happened. I asked her who that man was, and if she knew him, and she said he's just an upstairs neighbor in a dismissive tone. Like she barely knows him. I replied that if he was just an upstairs neighbor, how did our daughter know his name? She replied back that the man has a habit of letting his dog off the leash and his dog would come looking for my dog, and it has happened several times, and he likes saying hi to our daughter. Seemed like a reasonable explanation, right, except for one fan. Remember 2 moons earlier, when I was watching a movie with my daughter, and she was playing a recognition game and saw 2 couples romancing and called out Mama and Udo, the same Udo that my daughter just called out to this stranger who happened to be our neighbor. 2 months ago, when I asked my daughter who Udo was, she pointed to the ceiling. Coincidence, right? And now my wife just confirmed to me that Udo is an upstairs neighbor. Coincidence? No, I think not. There's something going on here, and I was determined to find out what it is. My wife was acting all weird and shady. I didn't think she would lie to me, and I haven't caught her in a lie before. But something smelled fishy. We were exceptionally silent during the last leg of our walk. After the chance encounter with a man I now recognize as Udo, I was thinking about what ifs, how my life will be thrown upside down if my wife was indeed having an affair. I couldn't imagine my wife sleeping with another man. The thought was repugnant. I felt disgusted at her, even though the evidence was circumstantial. Before we arrived at our apartment, my wife noticed my awkwardness and she asked me what was going on. And I said nothing. I was just silent the whole time thinking. When we arrived at our apartment, I abruptly asked my wife the name of the man, and she seemed upset. Then she said she doesn't know the question and its abruptness surprised her a bit. I can tell she knew I suspected something, but it wasn't time to confront her. It was time to collect proof. That was all I thought about the next day. When there is smoke, there is fire. I went online looking for answers. I found forums online and posted my story so I could document it as not to bottle it up inside. And to get support, perhaps I would find someone that has gone through something similar and had a way to find out if my wife is having an affair with Udo. Perhaps someone would tell me that I was crazy and I was about to destroy my family due to paranoia. The first fact I needed to know was his real name, to see if his name is really Udo. Maybe Udo is his dog's name. And in that case, my suspicion will fall apart because Mama can't be romantic with Udo, a dog. Then I know not to take my daughter seriously. Such is the imagination of a 3-year-old child and should not be taken seriously. People on the forums suggested that to hire a private investigator to find out the name of the upstairs neighbor. Since I can't steal his mail or have time to follow him because of my busy schedule, I could take time off work to follow him and find out his movement or what he does for a living, but it would be more convenient to hire a private investigator and less expensive, and less emotionally draining to my person. I went online and found a private investigator that specializes in investigating infidelity. I gave him the gate code to my apartment and told him my schedule. His first mission was to find out the name of the upstairs neighbor, where he works, what his schedule was like, and what his relationship was with my wife. First week of investigation was stressful because I had to act normal around my wife and go about my business like nothing was happening. I wanted her guards to be down as not to arouse any suspicion, and I make sure I stay at work longer than usual. I tried not to hate on my wife because I was still in the finding phase, and everything was yet just speculation and circumstantial. After a week, I met the private investigator at a planned location for debriefing, and he told me his findings. He found out the first and last name of the man. His first name is Hugo. And for obvious reason, I can't tell you his last name. He's 36 years old. He told me that the man is a recent divorcee with 2 kids and shared custody with his ex-wife. His wife got the house, in the divorce agreement, which was why he lived in our apartment. He had a girlfriend and work out often. He works at a distribution company as a logistic manager with multiple employees working under him. Mostly female employees. The private investigator came with a folder full of pictures of my wife and my daughter in the dog park, sitting on the same bench with Hugo and my daughter. Why the dogs played around the park? The private investigator said that he witnessed that their interaction was cordial like friends, but there were no touching, just laughing, no forms of affection that he witnessed. So far, things weren't looking good for my wife. My wife lied that she doesn't know him and she doesn't know his name. But here she was seen on several photos chatting with him. Now I have strong reason to conclude that my daughter was right all along. Hugo sounded very much like Udo. The most disturbing part was that my daughter may have witnessed them having sex. It still bothers me till this day. We haven't even done it in front of my daughter, even when she was a few months old, or kiss each other in front of my daughter, even though I would consider us as having a healthy sex life. I wouldn't say that we are the affectionate type. We leave that in the bedroom. The private investigator asked if I wanted him to continue, and I said I would like to retain him for 2 more weeks to see if he could find out more. I really didn't know what else I wanted him to find out. There's no way he would catch her in public showing affection with him other than them doing it in my apartment or his, but but I was so encouraged by his initial debriefing that I wanted to know more. The following week debriefing, all the private investigator observed was that Hugo seemed to have multiple girlfriends because he saw him going out with 3 different women, and 2 of those women happened to be his employees that worked for him, which is a violation in most companies. He didn't really find any new thing about my wife, other than she hangs out with Hugo at the park with my daughter. On the 3rd week, I asked him to look into those women that Hugo was having an affair with to see if they are married. And he came back that one of them was married with kids and the other was single. He wasn't able to find out about the 3rd one. Now I was thinking that this guy, Hugo, is a scumbag. He's betting other people's wife, abusing his authority at work. Moreover, he's more than likely having access with my wife. I needed more evidence to confirm that he's having access with my wife. I have evidence of my wife lying, but I need to know if my wife is endangering my life and exposing me to STDs, or worst, my wife's pregnancy might not even be mine. The private investigator gave me a hidden camera to install in my house and my bedroom and instructions on how I would monitor it remotely. On the 1st week, I didn't see anything, no sign that Hugo came to my apartment. The 2nd week was the same thing. I wanted to give up before she finds the camera because she cleans the entire house every day. I could use the evidence I already have to confront her and get a divorce for an emotional affair. At least, it's weak evidence for infidelity because I only have proof that she's lying to me. I can share what my daughter said, but she would deny it and may resent our daughter, which I don't want. They may be doing it in his apartment, which in that case, I wouldn't be able to capture anything, and it would be impossible to have a private investigator sit on the stairs of our apartment building watching my front door all day. I almost gave up hope, but I haven't come this far. I gave it 1 more week, then I hit pay dirt. I had mixed emotion watching it. I was sad and humiliated, and I felt that this 4 months ordeal was over. 11 months after we moved into my apartment, my daughter had been vindicated. When my daughter told me about it 4 months ago, till now, that I have finally caught her red-handed. Here is what I saw on camera. After I went to work, my wife went out to walk the dog with my daughter. After that, they came back home with Hugo. They all walked into my apartment with the dogs. Hugo was behind my wife. My daughter was in front of my wife. Hugo walked from behind her and hugged her from behind, massaging her melons and kissing her neck. Then she turned around and they started making out. The only thing that separates them was her 6 months pregnancy, which could be mine or Hugo's. With this final proof, all I needed to do was to confront her. It didn't go farther than kissing and touching. They separated and he left. It broke my heart that this is how she paid me back after I made her a woman. I honored her, I respected her. I never laid hands on her or disrespected her. I provided her with every fan she needs, and she couldn't hold her own commitment. She couldn't even give me exclusivity. She endangered my life by having an affair with a man with many partners, exposing me to life-threatening STDs, endangering the life of the only breadwinner in the household. She acted like her dog and deserved everything coming her way. It was time to confront her. When I came home, I asked my wife what was going on between her and Hugo. She denied and acted like she didn't know what I was talking about, but the fear in her eyes gave away what she was hiding in her heart. Her secret is no longer hidden. I showed her the pictures of the 2 of them in the park. That was when she admitted that she knew him, but she didn't want me to know because I may think they have something going. She continued to lie. She said that they were just talking and swearing that nothing actual happened. Then I showed her the hidden camera, then to cries and look of shock and embarrassment. Initially, I wasn't angry or too emotional because I have exhausted my tears. For the past 2 months, she prostrated on the floor and laid on my feet begging me. I asked her how long the affair had been going on. And she said 2 months after we moved into the apartment. It's been almost a year since we moved into the apartment. I asked her how it started. And she said that they met at the park and started talking. He claimed to be a fitness trainer and had a small gym set up in his apartment. He invited my wife to his apartment, and since she was bored at home, she went upstairs, and that's how we started. Our words, not mine. Obviously, I am calmer now, since it's been over a year since the confrontation took place. But the emotion is still raw. And I still feel the pain of my face getting dragged through the mud by this woman. And even till this day, I feel like people look at me with dirt on my face. There was a lot of crying on both sides, and she was trying to beg me not to divorce her, and how much it would be a disgrace to her and her family. I called her dad and mom in her presence and told them everything that she had done. I was pretty sure her dad would kill her before I do, if he gets his hands on her, because she had disrespected his family as well. That's what I respect about the old school guys from back home. I told my wife that I can't allow her to continue to stay with me in my apartment. I couldn't kick her out the same day. Besides the fact that her name is on the lease, she was pregnant. Even though the paternity of the baby is in question, I told her that she will be sleeping in another room till I rented her another apartment. I will pay for her apartment for 3 months, while she looks for a job. After 3 months, she will be on her own. Many will want me to kick her out immediately. But I couldn't. It is not easy as that. I need her to look after my daughter till I get a babysitter. I can't afford to miss work or lose concentration because I had a lot of responsibility, you see. At the time, I didn't know who the pregnancy belongs to, so it was a tricky situation. 2 days later, I found her on apartment and had her sign a divorce agreement. We didn't want to spend too much money, so we went through mediation. We were married for 5 years, and she was a stay-at-home mom for 4 years, and she earned significantly less than me when she was working. On the divorce agreement, I was supposed to pay her alimony for 1.5 years. She couldn't go back to her parents or her family members because she was ashamed of what she had done. Pretty much anyone that knew her knew why we got divorced. As for Hugo, we found out that the other women had a boyfriend as well, so we sent proof of their affair to her husband. The husband of the coworker with kids and the boyfriend of the other one that didn't work with him all got copies of proof of their cheating. We also called the HR department and sent them the pictures as well. We didn't have to remind them that he violated the company policy by sleeping with his subordinates. Luckily, the company that he works for had a policy against that, and he was eventually terminated. I had never spoken to Hugo before other than the smile exchange during the dog walk, but I was hard at work and spent thousands to ruin his life, like he had ruined mine. After I was done with him, he was jobless. I moved out of the apartment. I don't know if he knew I was the one pulling the strings. I'm sure my ex-wife must have told him something. About 6 months after my daughter told me about Mama and Udo, my ex-wife gave birth. Even though we didn't live together, I was at the hospital to check to see if the baby was mine. Hugo is Hispanic, and people in my country share the same complexion as them, so the baby could easily pass on as mine. We decided to get a paternity test, and the result wasn't available till the next day. No one but me was there for the pregnancy, unlike our daughter, where the whole village was at the hospital. As everyone has basically disowned her, her last few months of pregnancy was spent in regret and despair. I was the only one there because there was a chance that the baby would be mine. She wanted me to have mercy on her, begging me why on her delivery bed, asking for forgiveness. Up until she went to labor, she was glad to see that I was there. Well, I sent you a letter from the hospital and told him that he has a baby, and guess what he did? He never showed up. Months later, my ex-wife told me that he only started coming when she put him on child support. My ex-wife is now working full-time and living a different life, making a high school teacher wage. I don't know if you will call it difficult, but compared to the line before, I would consider it as such. I have custody of my daughter full-time. Even though we have shared custody in the divorce agreement, I have a full-time babysitter. I don't want my daughter staying at her run-down apartment. I don't want my daughter to live a hard life. I make enough and work hard for her to live like a rat. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up for the algorithm to promote my video. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.